This latest outage shows how little we know about air travel. If only it were an April Fool's joke on Monday, hundreds of flights were delayed after a brief software glitch affected U.S. airlines Delta, Southwest, United, Alaska, and JetBlue. The issue was due to much. After implementing an internal ground stop for 40 minutes on Monday morning, Southwest said it was anticipating scattered flight delays and that customers should check with the airline for the latest updates. Delta, means if technology problems cause headaches for flyers sounds familiar, it is last week, travelers on JetBlue, American, and Alaska flights were after Sabre, an airline reservations company, went down for 30 minutes. Despite the length of this outage relatively short and the number of delays relatively small, the Aero data outage has brought to light some of the unknowns of air travel, including a pilot's pre-launch plan and keeping track of where and how much luggage is placed. Entering incorrect. So where does Aero data fit into takeoff and what power does the FAA have? Hartfeld says Aero data, for its part, has no social media presence, and an address in Scottsdale, Arizona. Aero data has not. Plane's correct weight and balance are essential to safe flight, and have been required for decades. This. Chalk it up to physics. Both weight and balance can dramatically affect takeoff speed, cruising speeds, and based on a plane's. For now, the FAA has said it's looking into the cause of the outage. But in situations, a passenger on a US-based airline has fewer rights than one flying on a European-based airline, says air travel expert and founder George Hobica. In the US, watch jet lag, explained by 12 travel experts.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.